Welcome to Drum LCK. My name is John, and today we're going to take a look at an advanced snare drum exercise. Let's go. Okay, so today's lesson is all about this exercise called Chaff-a-diddle. I think that's how you say it. And up front, this exercise is full of hybrid rudiments, and hybrid rudiments tend to have ridiculous names. So bear with me as we go through this. And that being said, there are so many hybrid rudiments and regular rudiments that instead of just throwing them all up in the beginning like I normally would, we're just going to go through this two measures at a time. So first off, let's just throw the first two measures up and see what we have. Looking at the first measure, we just have regular paradiddles. And this entire exercise is built around the paradiddle. And it's going to be very important for you to be able to play your paradiddles with an accent on each quarter note. So you got to make sure before you can do any of this that you can play paradiddles like this. Right? We're getting that accent on the first note. Paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. So once you have your paradiddles down and you're ready to move on, you have to keep in mind that every measure in this exercise is a paradiddle unless it's otherwise noted. So if there's no sticking throughout this exercise, that means it's a paradiddle. So this second measure, we have another full measure of paradiddles, but now that quarter note isn't only an accent, it's a flam. Now you're already playing that accent, so what we have to do is add our grace note in like a normal flam. So if you're playing a right paradiddle, you play a right flam, which means your left stick is low and your right stick is the accent. Flamadiddle, the opposite for a left. Accented left hand, and then we're playing the tap on our right. And that's for a left flam. Paradiddle. So that whole measure is flamadiddle, 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 flamadiddle. Nice and easy. Just make sure you have some decent flams while you're playing through this. It can be pretty difficult. Now let's bring up our next two measures, and right away you already know this third measure here. It's just our accented paradiddles once again. And now we look at measure 4 here. Now we have our first hybrid rudiment. Now this is still a paradiddle, but you're going to notice now instead of flams on every quarter note, we have a diddle. And a diddle in the drumline world just means a double. So it's a right right or a left left. Now this is a hybrid rudiment called a stutter diddle. I'm guessing it's because it sounds like a paradiddle with a little stutter in the beginning. I don't know. Your stutter diddles should sound and look something like this. Once you have your stutter diddles down, you can take a look at measures 5 and 6. You already know measure 5 is the same thing we've been doing. And measure 6 is another hybrid rudiment. Now, I just learned the name of this rudiment yesterday, and I think it's a little ridiculous. This is called a choo-choo because we're a bunch of children. So the choo-choo rudiment places the flam on the and of every beat. We're still playing paradiddles. We're just moving the flam that we played before on beat 1 to the and after 1 and each beat after. Now that you had the flam on the ands, it's going to be the first note of every diddle. So it's going to be a flam right, 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 but flam right. So now your choo-choo rudiment, nice and slow, should look like this. And just a little slower than that, paraflam, 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 paraflam. This one's a little difficult. Just take your time, play slow, and eventually we'll get faster for you. Now let's check out the next two measures. And again, we have our paradiddle measure. But this next measure, this isn't a hybrid rudiment. It's actually just all of the three rudiments we've played put together. So now we have a diddle and a flam on each downbeat. That is actually a hybrid rudiment on its own called a cheese. So you're playing a cheese on every downbeat, and we still have that flam on the and of every beat. Now you really need to take this super slow to make sure you're getting the right sticking all the way around. Again, it's still a paradiddle, but it gets a little more complicated now. So measure 6 on its own, nice and slow, should sound like this. A little faster than that. And a little faster. Just remember to take your time with this one. It's actually pretty difficult. So let's bring up the next two measures. And here we finally have a change to our standard accented paradiddle measure. It's a small change. First two paradiddles are exactly the same, but beats 3 and 4 are a little different. Still just a paradiddle, but we're moving the accent to the second note of each paradiddle. So that measure will go like this. Paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. And the next measure just starts with 2 accented paradiddles, and then things get a little different here on beats 3 and 4. Now we have 2 sextuplets of paradiddle diddles. Now these don't alternate naturally, so it's just right, left, right, right, left, left, 4 times in a row. It actually bleeds over to the next measure as well. You'll notice at the bottom of these paradiddle diddles that we have a crescendo, and the crescendo is just telling you to start soft and gradually get louder. The loudest note of the crescendo should be the last note of the crescendo. So this measure right here should sound like this. All right, now let's bring up the last 2 measures here. We finish our last 2 paradiddle diddles up, and here's where we're getting a little louder. And beats 3, we just have 2 eighth notes here, but this left-hand eighth note right here has a press on it, which means we're going to just press the stick into the drum and get a little buzz. But it's going to be a nice firm press. You don't want anything like that. You just don't have time for it. And this right here is just a rim shot, our quarter note there. This measure on its own should sound like this. One more time. And now we have our last measure, and this measure kicked my butt while I was learning this. We have beats 1, 2, and 4 are the same pattern we were playing earlier where we mashed up all of our hybrid rudiments. So that's not too bad, but beat 3 is what makes this super difficult. Right here we have another hybrid rudiment called cheese inverts. We play a right hand cheese, which if you remember is a flam with the accent having a diddle on it. That's a cheese. So we're going to go right cheese, left tap. I keep hitting the microphone. And then we have a left cheese, right tap. Put them together, it's right cheese, left tap, left cheese, right tap. Putting it all together nice and slow should sound like this. A little bit faster than that. So this measure might take a while to be able to get it as fast as you can play the rest of the exercise. What I did was I just practiced this measure over and over and over again, and it actually alternates. So if you play it back to back, the first time you're going to start with your right hand, and the second time you should be starting with your left hand. You're really going to develop both hands while you work through this. Now that you have all the parts, let's take it together if you're ready, and let's take it at 85 beats per minute. And there you go. That's a pretty tough exercise. 85 was about as fast as I could play it cleanly. I could go a little faster, but it was getting a little rough at the end. But, in the drumline world, what would be considered fast for this would probably be 120, 130, 140. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those drumline guys out there could go even faster. But for us lowly drum set players, maybe your goal should be 100, 110. If you want to push it, go for it. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. This is a really tough exercise. I hope you give it a shot. Let me know if you do. I'd love if you throw it up on Instagram, tag me, John Hoff or Drum LCK. I'll watch it. I'm curious to see how many of you give this a shot. It's pretty scary, but I know you can all do it. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. And until next time, take care.